The remarkable thing about these two recordings, made 30 years apart, is that the organist and choirmaster is the same on both. George Thorn Ball took over the temple choir when he was still only 28, and for many years he was regarded as the finest organist in the world. Knighted in 1982, he was not only the organist and choirmaster of the Temple Church for nearly 60 years, but was also the city organist here in Birmingham. George Thorn Ball and Ernest Lough received gold discs in 1963, not for selling 1 million copies of Over the Wings of a Dove, but in celebration of its 35th anniversary. Nobody knows how many copies have been sold. It's been estimated at over 5 million, but whatever the figures, no one, my father included, got rich because of it. The kind of wealth enjoyed by recording stars today could not have been imagined in the early days of the wind-up gramophone. My younger brother Graham followed my father into the temple choir, still under George Thorn Ball, and today they sing side by side among the basses of the Bach choir.
It's a funny thing about singing because it's a wonderful thing to do on your own if you're good enough to do it on your own, and it's the most profound human expression of music that you can have in a sense. And if Ernest, after a distinguished career as a boy, then felt the desperate urge, as we all do, to go on singing, he would naturally, depending on how the voice broke, want to do that within the confines of a choir. Then I suppose after many, many years of doing that, you say 40 years or so doing that, then maybe he felt the need to hide himself away even more amongst a choir of 300 voices. But that in itself presents another tremendous thrill to somebody who loves using the human voice.
Make sure each time it's a lay son, a quick S, not zon, but son, from everybody there. Once more basses, your lead, 3, 4. He went through the same audition as anybody else. It certainly didn't hurt him that he was Ernest Lough, and it didn't hurt him that I knew of him, because I knew that he'd been well trained as a boy, and I knew that he'd been singing regularly throughout his life in the temple to a very high standard. And a person like that who's been trained so well is going to keep his voice to a very late age. Once you've been trained as well as Ernest was as a boy, and if you've kept it up through your life, you're going to go on for a very long time singing well. He isn't alone in being able to sing well at the age of 80, because I knew Sir Keith Faulkner, who's a very distinguished bass soloist. He also was singing magnificently right into his 80s. So it shows the value of good training at a young age and practice throughout your life.
I feel when I listen to Ernest again that he is very much the end of a tremendously important, long tradition. And I think people could now listen to these records of him and really learn a fantastic amount about the technique of singing.
It's just wondrous that your father was put onto disc, where, you know, at a time when it was things were at such an optimum in terms of his voice and the way it was recorded. It was just the most one of the most extraordinary things I think I've ever heard, and will always be with me.
Over the Wings of a Dove was probably the most surprising success in the history of recording. Nobody planned it, and nobody expected it. Certainly not my father. To him it was just a job, something he had been trained to do. The hardest part, in a way, was what followed, trying to lead a normal life. He once said, "Boy sopranos must die young." And while that's true, he also exemplifies the very opposite of that remark. Like Peter Pan, he is, and always will be, eternally young, his image, like his voice, frozen in time by those early recordings. And maybe, ultimately, that is the key to it all. For everyone who has come into contact with that record, there is a feeling that is more than mere nostalgia. It's a fleeting moment of beauty that touches all of us at some deep, inner level, but leaves no more than an echo in its wake.